Pete, what are you doing? Can you stop? Hello, welcome to Moonbelly Makes. My name is Katrina, and this is my assistant Pete, and welcome to our home. Today, I'm gonna share with you how I made a fabric magnetic ice cream cone toy for my best friend Lauren's 1-year-old Rhea. You may be familiar with my friend Lauren and also her baby. She's the one that I made the fabric bouquet for, that we're at part 2 of that 3-part series currently on the channel and on the blog. And Rhea is in those posts as well because I made her a little headband to match, which is so cute. You may also be familiar with my tendency to make stuffed animals for my friends' babies when they're born. As you can see in the video that's linked somewhere up there, where I made a little replica of my friend Kayla's pug Brexley for her baby when she was born. So when Rhea was born, I wasn't able to make her one of these little stuffed creatures because Lauren and Jake don't have a pet. So I made her a crocheted blanket, which was very sweet. But as her first birthday approached, I realized that I really wanted to make her something stuffed, because that's what I do. That's what I do for my friends. So it was not very difficult for me to land on the concept of ice cream because Lauren and Jake love ice cream. It is Jake's Instagram handle. It is the dessert that they had at their wedding. They had little mini Jenny's, like individual Jenny's cups instead of a wedding cake. And for their wedding present, I made them a carved stamp like I did for my thank you cards. I'm just referencing every video I've ever made in this intro. I made them a carved stamp of 2 little ice cream cones that are in love as their wedding present. And that little quote is from Parks and Rec. If you know, you know. Anyways, I decided to do this ice cream cone for Rhea because Rhea isn't a newborn, she's 1. I wanted to give her something that was interactive, so I added magnets to the whole affair. And I'm gonna stop talking about it and I'm just gonna show you how I did it. There are usually 2 steps to starting a project. First, figuring out the what, like gathering and choosing supplies. And second, figuring out the how, like finding patterns or tutorials or using my own brain to engineer how the project will be made. I started this project with the what, specifically picking the fabrics I was going to use. I planned on a triple scoop, so I needed a brown one for the cone and various colors for the scoops. I wanted to use at least one of these incredible vintage floral fabrics that my mom and I had just gotten, so I pulled those out first. I also grabbed a big bin of fabric that I thought would maybe have some other good options. This tin had some solid fabrics from the vintage haul, and I pulled this brown and this pink as potential fabrics for the cone and a strawberry ice cream. Depending on what I had, I thought I could go all solid or all floral, or I could focus on textures. I laid everything out to get a sense of what I had so I could make some final decisions. All told, I had 2 concepts, one that was a floral Neapolitan with pistachio, strawberry, and vanilla, and one that was a more textural option with fleeced rainbow sherbet, rougher strawberry, and a flannel for vanilla. And then I had this brown for the cone. Okay, I just went out into my back porch where I have more fabric, of course. There's fabric literally stashed everywhere in this house. It's not heated, so my hands are frozen. So I was just like digging in this bin of frozen fabric. Anyways, but I found 2 other options for the cone. This you may recognize. It's a deep cut, but the first little mini pet that I made was for my friend Amanda's baby Fern, and this was what I used for him. I should give this back to my mom, but I haven't. So I have this, it's a little too yellow. Then I have this, which I think is perfect like sugar cone, not the safety cone, but sugar cone, which is what I want to go for anyways. A cone-shaped cone. So this fabric is perfect for that. I feel really happy about it. And I think I'm gonna go with these because this is kind of my original vision. I like that it's a little bit abstract. It's cutesy and fun. What's wrong with that? Oh, Pete. What? These are cool, but they just don't really work together. So I went with the florals. These were my chosen fabrics. This vintage green for the pistachio, vintage pink for the strawberry, and this white that I used as the back of my niece Nora's butterfly quilt for the vanilla with sprinkles. And also this much better brown for the cone. I have learned the hard way that when you're making something new, especially with special fabric, you must make a test. I started by going to Pinterest to see all of the different ways to make a fabric ball and decided to follow this tutorial that showed how to make what was basically a fabric baseball. This blogger added a rattle, but I planned on adding magnets so that the scoops of ice cream could stand on one another. So I cut out 2 pieces of scrap fabric in the shape that is very reminiscent of something else entirely, and then started pinning them together. The first time I did it incorrectly, pinning one right side to one wrong side, which I noticed right about now. But the second time I was successful at pinning the right sides together and took it to my machine to sew the 2 pieces shut. I left a little small opening so that I was able to turn the right side out, and after doing so, I had a deflated but pretty cute baseball. I stuffed it with fiber fill, and I'm feeling really good about this. I was very worried that it wasn't going to work, but I always say that. Okay, 2 things that I learned from this tester. 3 things that I learned from this tester. 1, it's the right size. That was like the main thing that I wanted to check out. 2, I need to make sure I pin a little bit better. You can see this is like a little lumpy in places because I just didn't pin it very well. And then the 3rd thing that I've learned is that when I do put the magnets on it, so I'm gonna put magnets on the bottom and the top of each scoop so that they can stick together and also stick to the cone that will have a magnet in it as well, so that she can like rearrange them and stack them however she wants. So it's actually not gonna be that crazy because I can just put a magnet on one kind of like paddle shape facing one way, and then one on the other side of the paddle shape facing the other way. And I'll stitch them in place before I stitch the whole thing together. So next steps are to close this up and make it into a toy for Pete because he'll love it. He'll love like batting it around. I might put something crinkly inside of it so that it has some nice sound for him because he loves that. And then I'm gonna cut out the rest of them, and then I need to go magnet shopping. It's the only thing I'm gonna need to purchase, which is pretty cool. So since I don't feel like going out today because it's Sunday and I'm having a lazy day, I wasn't even gonna do this today, but it just called to me, so I wanted to try it. So I will go magnet shopping maybe tomorrow, but today I'm just gonna cut out the pieces and get them ready for when there are magnets. So, yay! I have not worked on this in a very long time. We left off with these being cut out, which is great, but I realized I need to put interfacing on them, especially these 2, the like vintage. These fabrics are at least 30, probably more like 40, 45 years old. I don't know, maybe someone can date them. Mom. But they are not very strong, and I want them to have a little bit more body to them. So I'm going to put interfacing on, which is very difficult after something is cut out. You can see me explain why in my video about Nora's baby quilt, but I'm going to do a bad thing and I'm going to put interfacing on after these pieces are cut out. And that's just because I don't have very much of this fabric. Otherwise I could just redo it. But especially the green, like I used the only part of the green that wasn't sun damaged, so I have to use this. This is the only thing that I have. In order to interface these properly, I'm going to cut the interfacing just a little smaller, just so it's a little bit easier to line them up perfectly. So if the interfacing is just a little smaller, then it will be caught completely around the edges of the fabric, I hope. Another important thing is that I told my mom that I was doing this project and that I needed magnets, and where she thought I should get the strongest magnets, if I should go to the hardware store or I should order them online, or you know what she thought was the best. And she was like, I have of course I have a bunch of really strong magnets. So I have a lot of magnets. They're all a little bit different. There's 5 of the same and then 4 of the same and then 2 that are a little bit different. So basically I want 1 magnet in the cone and then 2 magnets in each scoop so that they can be interchanged, stacked together in different ways. Hopefully these magnets are strong enough. I think that they are. Let's try to feel how strong they are. Yeah, these are the strongest ones. So I'm gonna prioritize these and hopefully that will be strong enough. I'm not gonna like overstuff them with fiber fill so that they're not super heavy, and hopefully this will work. I'm not gonna know until it's completely done. I also need to figure out how I'm going to attach the magnets on the inside. I might just glue them. Is that a bad idea? No, but then the glue will get in the way, so I can't glue them. Okay. Glad we figured that out. I could also make like a little pocket of fabric and like stitch them into a little pocket. I took my butter box template and cut out 6 pieces of interfacing all at once to line the 6 pieces of fabric I had already cut out for the scoops. I put the fabric wrong side down and then made sure to put the interfacing with the rougher side down as well. I know it doesn't show up great on camera because it's mostly a textural thing, but that roughness is the gluey side, which needs to be touching the fabric. Then I put down my press cloth to protect my iron from any mistakes and ironed with long holds to make sure that the glue really melted and adhered to the fabric. I flipped it over, pressed it on the other side, and it was ready to go. Since magnets have 2 sides, I need to make sure that I put them in correctly so that they will stack the way that I want them to. So I'm gonna use a gold Sharpie and I'm gonna mark on them just so that I know which way is which when I'm putting them into the scoops. I just gave them a little plus on one side and left the other side blank so I know which is which. I made myself a potentially unnecessary diagram and then made sure that the magnets would cling to each other through the fabric, which worked, and then began the process of sewing the magnets in place. I measured to the center of each paddle and pinned down little circles of interfaced scrap fabric to make a little pocket for each magnet. I tried to use the sewing machine to stitch the pockets down, but I couldn't stitch close enough to the magnet, and I realized that the magnet would be able to shift inside the pocket, which was no good. Also, the magnet was magnetized to the metal plate beneath on the bottom of my sewing machine, so I couldn't easily move the fabric around, and also the circles were too small. So I resigned myself to hand stitching the magnets in place, which actually was pretty straightforward once I made a bigger set of circles for the pockets. After attaching all 6 magnets, I pinned the baseball shapes together with literally all of my pins. I have 3 very dangerous sea urchins. It was tricky to get them in the right place, but once they were there, I slowly stitched all the way around, turned them right side out, and they looked like this. So it has some puckeriness. You see those little like folds that are sewn in, that's a pucker. Whatever though is kind of how I feel about it. You know how when you scoop an ice cream scoop, it like, if it's really cold, it'll have those like the like little texture? That's what that is. I did it on purpose. Shh. I don't think I talked about this yet, but I think I'm going to do a little ruffle around the bottom to look like an ice cream scoop. But first I'm going to fill them. And I have here a big bag of fiber fill, which is just, you know, high performance fiber fill for pillows, dolls, stuffed toys. You can make at least 10 square feet of snow or cloudscapes with this bag. I'm going to fill these and then stitch them closed. Let me show you how the stitching closed will go. So tricky with the magnets, so I'll do my best to kind of show. When this was stitched, there is a seam allowance, so a little bit of extra fabric around the outside I stitched just inside of, so there's the raw edge is completely enclosed in the middle and it's not going to come apart. So when I go to do the closing stitching here, there's these 2 raw edges here and I will fold them each in. So like my fingernails are the raw edge. I'll fold them in and then close that way and then stitch across, and you won't be able to see where I stitched because I'll just do it the same way that the sewing machine did. So to fill and then to sew closed. I measured, you saw me, I measured to find where the center would be, where to put the magnets, and they're a little they're a little melty, but I want to put a ruffle around each one so it looks like an ice cream scoop and not just a ball. I'll put them here, 2 inspiration pictures, and I'm going to choose the one on top because I think that one will just be a little bit easier for my purposes, and it just like is a little bit better ruffle. I think it's just going to be better in all the ways. After measuring the scoops, I cut a long strip of fabric out of each color. Looking back on it, I wish I'd done an even longer strip so that it would have been even more rufflier, but I still think it ended up super cute. I stitched each strip along its long side, turned it right side out before pressing with the seam hidden in the back. I stitched the short ends together and then hand sewed a simple running stitch down the center of each strip. Before putting a knot in the thread at the end, I scrunched up the fabric by pulling it down the thread, and then I stitched it to the scoop. Okay, I did one, and I was really feeling like it needed to be more flat on the bottom, so I took a bunch of stitches like through the center and just kind of like across this way, and just pulled it tight, tied a knot. Went across, pulled it tight, tied a knot. It's a little rustic, but it is more flat compared to this, which is more rounded on the bottom, and this is more flat. After ruffling the other 2 scoops, it's like not super secure, but the scoops are done. And now I'm going to use this fabric and make a cone. So I'm gonna make one out of paper first, just so I can get a sense of what size I want. I quilted the brown fabric together with batting inside in a cross-hatch pattern to make it look like a waffle cone. So I've been playing around with this, and I think that when I start to roll it, this little bit of unfinished business on the unfinished side, I can't leave it like that. I thought I could. So I'm going to fold this over and stitch it down, and then I should be able to roll it up without any loose ends hanging out. I pinned it in place and hand stitched it closed from the bottom to the top. It holds up, just barely. This thing cracks me up. So I stitched it all the way up here, and then I folded it across on the inside because this little corner was sticking up. So now I'm gonna make a little circle to go on top, and I'll put the magnet in the top circle. To do this, I interfaced a large circle of brown fabric and a small circle of white, and then stitched the magnet down the same way I had done for the scoops. That part was easy. However, attaching it to the cone was a different story. I stuffed the cone most of the way with fiberfill and then attempted to tuck the circle on top, and it really didn't work. So I decided to clip the seam allowance and cross the fabric over at the openings with a little stitch so that it was already kind of in the shape that I needed. This made it possible to pin in place, and with way too much thread that kept tangling, I sewed it securely to the cone. This is done. I stitched around it a second time so that it was really secure around the flat part of the top of the cone, and snipped off all the little last bits of thread. And here, let's try it. Start with pistachio, and then we'll do vanilla. It's tilting. Okay, and then strawberry. It's working. One scoop at a time works great. Okay, so I've learned some things for next time. If I were to do this again, I would be better at making sure that the magnets are really one on top of the other. That's really the main issue with these guys. I might make the ruffle a little bigger. That's another thing I might do. And I would try to find even stronger magnets. Like, these are good. They do the job. But, oh well. They do the job. I do think they could be stronger and still, like, not too strong for a toddler. But hopefully she will have a lot of fun with this. I mean, I'm having fun with it and I'm 32. So there you have it. This is my magnetic fabric ice cream cone, and I hope that Rhea loves it.
What are those? Hey, look. It's an ice cream cone. Do you want to put a scoop on it? Watch. Boop.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yummy.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed that and you feel inspired maybe to go out and get some ice cream. I hope it's a beautiful day where you are, but even if it isn't, ice cream is good any day, right? If you want more details and a little bit more insight into my thought process, you can check everything out on the blog post, which is linked below. Also on my blog and here on YouTube, I have more DIY projects as well as a bunch of stuff in the kitchen. So some of my own recipes and also my Great British Baking Project. And to stay more connected, you can join my newsletter. It goes out once a month, or find me on Instagram. I really hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I thank you so much for sharing this little bit of time with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Pete, stop. Pete, for the love of Pete.